In this tutorial, I'll show you how to use RePin to visually fix your corner pin's aspect ratio in real time, and then unstretch your media into a working composition. So I have RePin open over here, and then in my project, I've got a corner pinned solid layer tracked to this tablet. Now when you apply corner pin data, you typically apply it to a solid layer that's the same size as your composition. The problem with that is that the screen is never the same aspect ratio as your composition. So to fix that, I'll select my solid layer and click Fix Pin Aspect Ratio. That'll add a visual guide. And when we go back into our solid settings, we can now adjust the aspect ratio. As you scrub the values, the goal is to make the squares in the checkerboard square and the circle in the center a circle from the current perspective. And once it's corrected, we can bake those values back into the pin, which also removes the visual guide. So the pin is back to normal keyframes, and the layer's size is still what we set it to. From here, you could continue your normal corner pin workflow. But what's actually happening to our layer when we click Fix Pin Aspect Ratio? In the effects panel, it added checkerboard and circle before the pin effect. That's our visual guide, and those values are driven by the layer's source resolution. Also, if you started with a corner pin effect, it'll replace it with CC Power Pin. All three of these plugins are native to After Effects. CC Power Pin works the same way as corner pin, only it has these additional expansion properties. And we can adjust these too. You can set it to be any custom area along the tracked plane. And then you would correct the aspect ratio for that. But let's just stick to what we had, and I'll set it to be 12% all around. This way our aspect ratio remains correct. So then baking that removes your visual guide and bakes your pin values with the layer's new resolution. Okay, so that's useful on its own, but we still haven't undistorted our media yet. Let's do that. I'll first select the same solid layer we just fixed. I'll then select the tracked media in the drop-down menu, and then I'll click Create RePin. That gives us our undistorted media. Then in our main composition, it's repinned back in its original place. And the comp's resolution is the same as the layer's resolution that we just set. Now from here, you could do whatever you want. You could use this as a normal media layer, you could paint directly on the layer, or just use it as a reference and add some graphics. And whatever you change in the RePin will be updated in the main composition. As a general rule, I try to use as much of the original media as possible. So in this case, I would set the undistorted media layer as a guide layer, so that only the graphics are rendered in the main composition. If you're doing anything that's really render intensive, like using Object Matte Tool or Content Aware Fill, you might consider rendering the undistorted media as an uncompressed video and replacing it here in the timeline. And finally, you might want to see both compositions side by side at the same time. To do that, you can lock the viewer in the composition panel, go over to the RePin timeline and click the Comp button, which will open it in the composition panel, then drag the two viewers side by side, and lock the RePin viewer as well. Now you can see the changes as you make them. And that's it. RePins can be created from any solid layer, whether it's 2D or 3D. And if the solid doesn't have a corner pin effect, it'll use the layer's corners instead. Give it a try for yourself at aescripts.com/repin.